How are the IRS drivers divided up? Okay, good question. Carl in Chicago writes us, in your Music Room 1 video, which describes the Infinity IRS-Vs, there they are, you say that one of the advantages of having 12 EMIMs is that the mid-range sound is broken up into smaller sections that each of these handle. Well, when I first heard this, I thought you were saying that the mid-range frequency range was broken up into 12 frequency segments with individual drivers handling only a portion of the mid-range frequency spectrum in a very complex crossover. After thinking about it, I decided that it was more likely that you meant that the work required to reproduce the mid-range frequencies was divided among the 12 drivers, each emitting the full mid-range frequency. Yes, that in fact is exactly how that works. So in the IRS, this is called a line source. And you can see the drivers on here. There are 24 tweeters on the front. Each one of these is a tweeter. And there are 12 mid-ranges on the front. So the EMIMs, the electromagnetic induction motor, I think, mid-range. Electromagnetic induction mid-range. That's what EMIM stands for. And electromagnetic induction tweeter is emit. Wow, the old brain cells still work sort of. These are ribbon drivers. And yes, Carl, you are correct. Basically, these are put into what's called series parallel. So we take groups of them, and I think they're in groups of 4, if I remember correctly, and you put them in series so that one feeds the other, so the plus of one goes to the negative of the next, and daisy chained up like that. And then with those 3 groups, they're either in 3s and then groups of 4, or the other way around. And then those are put in parallel. The bottom line is, in this speaker, one of the things that it does so well, whether it's the 24 tweeters on the front and the 12 mid-ranges or whichever drivers we're talking about, the load is shared. And that's really important because the dynamic range of this system is remarkable. And it's remarkable because instead of requiring a single mid-range driver to do all the work, to go from 0 amplitude all the way up to well over 100 dB if you're going to get close to trying to recreate the sound of an orchestra. And remember, an orchestra, a big orchestra, or even a small horn that is closely mic'd can get up to around 120 dB, sometimes as high as 130 dB, depending on where you're standing. That is extremely loud. And those peaks, those dynamic peaks, are what tells our brain just how real the music that we're hearing is. Because when we listen live, we hear these amazingly loud peaks without really noticing them. If you're sitting in a concert, you're going to hear very high dynamic range. And that just seems natural to you. Now you come back here, and when you're trying to recreate the sound that was captured on the microphones that were on stage or hanging right over the conductor's head, or whatever it is you're trying to play, this system has to reproduce tremendous dynamic ranges without changing its sound character. So when a driver, like a car or anything else, gets too close to the end of its headroom, when it starts getting to the point where it's going to run out of steam, where it starts changing its character, and we pick up on that. We can tell differences in character of an instrument as it changes, and you can measure it, you can hear it. So what Arnie Nudell did, he simply divided up the job of the drivers into 12s. So this is doing 1/12 of what one of these drivers would be doing if it was all that there was on the speaker. So you can imagine that in essence, we could say it could get 12 times louder without any kind of change to the sound quality, because we're dividing up that. And even on the loudest passages, these guys are just loafing. That's the idea behind it. Same with the tweeters, same with the woofers. It all just works because each of these drivers and there's 136 of them in this speaker system. Each of the drivers is doing just a little bit of the job, and together they create this big conical wave that comes out here, and it is so effortless. When you have a chance to hear this remarkable system, if you do come to Boulder, we invite you in, we'll play it for you. We don't charge admission. You come and you can play it, and people are like, oh my God, yeah, there it is. But yep, so come by, have a listen, and hear what unfettered, dynamic sound really sounds like. All right, good question, Carl. Thank you. I'll talk to you later. Bye.